Listen, are you looking for practical, sustainable, and proven ways to build wealth so you and your family can live the lifestyles you were created to live? Of the one that's filled with freedom and lifestyle options. Are you tired of trying to figure it out all by yourself? And does nobody in your family understand your drive? Then it sounds like you need a new tribe. Well, you're in luck because we just created one here at the Share the Wealth Show called the Wealth Exchange Network, where you can come in, engage, get support, and ask questions with people who have practical knowledge and experience to help you level up and get to that next stage in your journey. So hop on in, click the link in the show notes to join today. Come on and take advantage of this opportunity, and I'm going to see you on the inside.
So you don't want to just jump into bed with a partner. You want to know, you want to do your background checks, as you were saying, and they should be open to it, just like you would be open to it, as a fellow partner. But you want to really get to know them well. And if you see a red flag, pay attention to it. There's an abundance of folks that you can partner with, and you just want to make sure that you're partnered with the right one.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
Hey guys, so we're back again. This is the second part of the episode with today's guest. I need you, if you have not heard part one, go back to the previous episode and listen to that first, and then come back and join us here today. You need to hear the whole conversation. This is why we split into two parts. There's so many nuggets. It's so juicy. Go back and listen to the first part.
How were your properties, I guess, purchased and kind of set up besides you self-managing, like your debt service, and were you doing value add? How was your business plan set up for your current portfolio to make you be able to weather the storms? And have you had any difficulties with the current economy that you've had to kind of shift or revamp some things to keep everything floating along?
Sure. So I'll try to draw an illustration with my hands here, right? So basically, when you buy a deal, over the past 3 years, you're basically 80%. The bank was bringing 80% of the debt. So, and then you were bringing 20% of the equity to close at 100%. Well, when property values drop 10 to 20%, well, guess what? You lost your equity. And that's what's been happening across the board for many operators who bought over the past 2 to 3 years. In our case, we bought correctly in many cases. So that 10 to 20% drop, it didn't affect us. It just took away some of our amazing profits that we should have had. But overall, we were able to make it through because we bought correctly and we had a value add program that could get us. We had an actual business plan that was based upon fundamentals.
So have you had to, because I get that with the equity on the back end and what you should have realized if you were going to refinance or sell or whatever, are you extending expected sale date for, are you holding the property a couple of more years to kind of weather and build back up some equity?
Absolutely. So we refinanced all of our properties, or the two properties that we had that were due. We refinanced those earlier this year. So we've got another 5 years on the clock to, ride the market cycle and get to the other side and, see the sunshine. These are times when wealth are made. Right now, now is the biggest buying opportunity that we're probably going to see for the next 10 years. What you saw in the 2009 to 2011, we're seeing that right now. So if you can find something that you can pencil and it can cash flow right now, in 2 to 3 years, you're going to look like a genius.
Okay. I need to dig in on that. First of all, anybody listening, if you've been listening to this podcast and you've seen the last few episodes, you know that I'm saying, and I have been saying, that right now is an opportunity, right? Everyone is scared. A lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. I know a lot of investors I talk to are like, oh, well, I'm waiting for the rates to come down, or I'm gonna sit on sides. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. And I'm just like, that's such a big mistake. Like, you're going to be, once you're ready to jump back in, and once rates do come down, everybody's coming back in. And there's some big money sitting on the sidelines, I've heard, that's waiting to come back in too. And so you're going to be competing with a huge capital pool, right? Of money that just needs to sit and grow and doesn't really need returns. And how can you compete with that? So I'm glad you said that this is the biggest buying opportunity over maybe the next 10 years. Because it makes me feel like I look smart. Getting confirmation. Okay. But anyway, with that, it's kind of like, how is that opportunity similar in the single family space, or just like residential multi, or that small multi? Like, what? Because in my mind, if I'm going to, like, a lot of this stuff is happening with the larger commercial multis, mid to large size, right? Where they have maybe bridge debt, floating rate debt, or things like that. And it's not like you can do creative financing strategy. Like, you can't really assume those loans or do subject to or something, because those balloons are coming up, right? So for someone who's like a smaller time operator or investor who's looking to get started and grow their portfolio, and they want to take advantage of today's market, what's a good strategy for them if they don't have like a huge base of capital to pull from? And I guess you could go to raise capital, but then a lot of limited partner finances would be scared of the market, especially if you're an unproven operator. Like, kind of how, if you want to get in, should you start a little bit lower than the bigger range, or is that where the opportunity is? What's your insight on the strategy for a newer investor?
So I would say the sweet spot, and the sweet spot is larger deals right now, because how do I explain this? The institutional buyers, they're still kind of on the sideline, and people can't put together large equity pools. Like, syndicators can't put together large equity pools to buy those big deals. So that's really where the opportunity is in the big deals. Moving down the spectrum to the, let's say, $10 to $20 million range, that space is probably a little bit more competitive right now, because it's not as hard to raise, up to 5 million. But anything bigger than that, those become harder to raise for. And that's where the real opportunity is. Now, what I will say in single family is an opportune time to buy, because interest rates are high, which is keeping out normal residential buyers. When interest rates go down, affordability is going to go up, and they're going to pounce, and those prices are going to balloon. So the opportunity right now, I would say, is definitely in single family. It's on the big or in single family.
Okay, that's good to know. And what about like the 2 to 4 unit range? Is that considered single family? So that is very enlightening and hopeful. I think, yes, if you have big money, you can go after those big deals. You have those capital resources and that pool of money, that you can go after that. But I think that that's great as a buying opportunity. So if you can get involved, if you're a newer operator, you can get involved with, an operation team that can take down those really large deals, then do that. But just vet them correctly, make sure the person who that operator is that you're working with knows what they're doing, because otherwise you could end up in a similar situation as some of the deals that are in distress right now. But otherwise, if you're starting small, start in that 1 to 4 unit range and really take advantage of the other residential buyers who aren't buying for the investment purposes. So that gives you that opportunity, because they are sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to come down, right? But if you buy now, then you could refinance in a few years and capture a lower rate once that happens, right?
Marry the property, date the rate.
I love that. Okay, that might be the title of this episode. A great thing. Okay.
To build wealth with real estate? Are you all tapped out on YouTube University and ready to get help tailored to your specific situation and goals? Have you always known that you were a little different from the crowd, that you never liked following the status quo, and that you're just tired of living in mediocrity? You want to build wealth on your own terms outside of Wall Street? Well, then maybe the Microfamily Mavericks mentorship program can help with that. It's a community where I handhold you through the process of buying your first small commercial multifamily building, because not everyone is ready for 100 units out the gate. Why multifamily? Because it gives your rental income a hedge against vacancy. Imagine what happens when your single family rental tenant leaves, right? And why commercial 5+ units? Because you have much more control over increasing the building's value in the commercial space, and then in turn, increasing your own net worth. Starting small is a stepping stone to so much more, because then you can tap that equity and buy another building and another and another, and you get the point. So increasing your cash flow and your ability to be job optional along the way. It's all a part of the journey. So if you think big, but you want to start small, and if you know multifamily real estate is the way for you to open the door to building a life of freedom, abundance, and legacy, but you just need someone to guide you step by step, and you want to be surrounded by other people on the same journey, doing the same thing, then just click the link in the show notes to find out a little bit more about the Microfamily Mavericks, and I look forward to potentially seeing you on the inside. So now back to the show.
Cool. So in your process, I guess the other thing, so we talked on the ownership side, we talked on the property management side. So you have to do a little less asset management because all your management is in-house now. But if we're talking about capital and raising capital or using that, especially in today's environment. So what are some just like tips or strategies for someone starting and looking to raise capital in a syndication model, or even let's say they have to do a JV model and have someone who has some experience help with some things on the project so that they are still compliant. But between JV for a capital partner versus LP and syndication model for capital, if someone wants to get in now, take advantage of the opportunities in either side of the market, what's some like tips and strategies for attracting capital, communicating during the hold process, just like the whole thing of like how you should treat your capital partners and give them like the security of your experience and your growth and your transparency of like issues, because I think that's a big problem too. A lot of times operators aren't completely transparent when things are going south, so yeah, this is just a startup question for people wanting to get started. How can they take advantage of today's market if they need to raise capital?
I'll start answering that question and I'll let Corey finish because I know he'll have a lot of comments on that. So first things first, you want to have your list of investors. So before you jump out and try to raise money for anything, you want to make sure that you have a pretty healthy list of investors that are interested in investing with you. And you do that by going to events, going to, networking opportunities. For us, being a part of a mastermind group, of networking mentorship group, that made it a lot easier for us to raise capital because we were already with a lot of like-minded folks that wanted to just invest passively without, putting the deals together and actually being sponsors. So that's always an advantage if you're able to find, or when you find a group like that. But if not, just going to local groups and developing your list. So that's number one. You got to have your list of investors and a robust list. And then from there, communication is key. Investors like when you are transparent, when you communicate with them appropriately. We send out a monthly newsletter to our investors to give them updates. And these are folks that are just on our investor list that may not be active investors, but are on our list. So that way we're giving them useful information at the same time, every month. And they don't forget about us. They know we're still there. They know we're looking for properties and give them updates on what we're doing. With the folks that are actually in our deals, they get an update from us every month as well, but that's in, a detailed update of what's going on with the property that they're invested in. So communication is key, and there may be more communication at the beginning, or it actually should be more communication when you first take over a property. So at that point, we communicate weekly what's going on, and then we taper that off once the property is stabilized after takeover. And then if you're going through a challenging time, or if you're going through, we communicated with our investors frequently as we navigated the market. We refinanced 2 properties and sold a property in the matter of 2 months at the beginning of this year. So that was a lot of activity and a lot of follow-up and a lot of communication with our investors to make sure that they knew what was going on, what we were facing, and that we got it, that we've got it handled as their deal sponsors. So communication is key. And our investors tell us all the time that they appreciate that, and clear communication and concise. They don't want to listen, read a lot of information that's not relevant. They want you to be concise, get to the point, and go over the facts that are important to their investment.
Cool. I love that. Corey, did you have more to add to it?
I would say, just starting off, you want to position yourself. So you either have one of 4 things. Either you have capital, you have experience, you have time, or you're a hustler. So it's basically 4 keys to doing this business. And if you have more than one of those, you're even set. If you don't have those, then you got to partner up and find people who do have those things. And hustle and time are kind of the same thing, but not really. The second thing is you want to position yourself as a subject matter expert. So you want to make sure that your marketing is on point. You want to make sure that you've got some type of blogs. You want to join podcasts. You want to put it out there so that people know that what you're doing, and you want them to know that you're good at it. So those things are important. And then you want to make those relationships with brokers. You want to get your pipeline going for your deal flow. So I think those are the 2 things right there that are most important to get started. Get your pipeline for your deal flow, and establish yourself as a subject matter expert.
Okay. I love that. Both of you guys gave such great tips of just kind of how to get started with establishing yourself and attracting capital, and getting, whether they're going to be passive or, active as joint venture. And I love have those 4 different personalities, or 4 different skill sets, and partnering up with people who may have a skill set that you don't have, so that you're together are a strong team. What's a good way? I know I've heard of people partnering, but saying they need to do background checks on their partners, or credit score checks, or whatever, just to have some type of transparency, or I guess as a foundational thing on top of liking and trusting someone. What are your thoughts on that, or how else should people be vetting potential joint venture partners, or even if it's going to be your potential GP partner on a larger deal? How do you know that just because you like somebody that they don't suck with money, or that they are ethical?
Sure.
Right?
No, so I mean, I joke about this. Candice used to joke about this. I want to say she asked me what my credit score was when we were dating. You want to know these things, because how you run your house. And this is another conversation we had yesterday about talking about partners. How you run your house is how you're going to run your business. So, and I'll let Candice kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, but you definitely want to do background checks. You definitely want to check credit. Candice, you want to pick that up?
Yeah, I mean, you're married to this person, just like, a marriage. When I talk to people that are thinking about getting married, I'm like, you want to make sure that you trust this person with your life, because this is the biggest decision that you will ever make. And same thing for a partnership, maybe not as tied as a marriage, but it's similar, because this is your reputation, your credit, your livelihood that you are opening yourself up to when you partner with someone else. So what the conversation Corey and I were having the other day was about relationships. Like, if you're considering a partner, let's see how they handle their relationships. Are they able to maintain long-term relationships? What does their marriage look like? What does their relationships with their kids look like? Maybe, if we're thinking about a partner, we definitely should take them out to dinner and invite their family. Let's see how they talk to the wait staff, how they talk to their partner. All these things are very, very important. So you don't want to just jump in the bed with a partner. You want to know, you want to do your background checks, as you were saying, and they should be open to it, just like you would be open to it, as a fellow partner. But you want to really get to know them well. And if you see a red flag, pay attention to it. There's an abundance of folks that you can partner with, and you just want to make sure that you're partnered with the right one.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm always so nervous, like, because I've been in partnerships, some not good, even recently, some not good, with people who I know, like, and trust, kind of thing, right? But for the most part, I am scared to ask. I don't know how to say it. I don't, like, hey, can we do background checks on each other? Like, how do you even bring that up? That feels
The
like
lender's going to ask for the lender's not going to loan you money without running your background. So
yeah, and I think what you do, you kind of develop it, kind of like in dating. Like, you have the phone call, you have the in-person over lunch or dinner conversations, and then that should be expected with any partner. To Corey's point, the lender is going to ask for that information, so that's just part of doing business. So they shouldn't be offended with that.
Yeah, and I think if they are offended, that's probably a red flag for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of business.
Yeah,
we all have to give our, do a background check for from the lending side. So it's just part of it.
Okay, cool. All right. That's something I need to implement moving forward, and just, you have to get over yourself and what you think, like, expectations or other people's perceptions. It's the whole thing of, like, not caring what other people think, or, like, do business the way that you need to do business. If someone's offended by it, then that's just not someone that you're meant to do business with. Like, if you don't have anything to hide, you shouldn't be offended by it, honestly.
True.
Are you enjoying this episode? Then stop what you're doing right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps our show get pushed to more people who are looking for the information that we're sharing here. We have to share the wealth. If you listen to us on YouTube, make sure you like the episode that you're listening to right now and subscribe to our channel. Then share the channel with somebody else. There are people out there looking for the information you're listening to right now, so make sure you share it with someone who you know needs it. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so we're going to transition to the last few questions that I ask every guest. This has been a great conversation so far, and you have given so many, like, just good tips on property management and handling this economy, kind of how to move forward, some sweet spots of opportunity. So I think this episode is just full of a lot of gems, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it. For you guys, if you're listening, make sure you take plenty of notes, rewind it and take the notes, right? Okay. So this section of the podcast is called Digest with the Guest. And I say that because, like I was just saying, all the guests leave so many morsels of information. You got to slowly digest it and, nibble a little bit here and there and digest the information and really let it settle into your system until it becomes part of, like, it integrates with your cells to that level, right? So Warren Buffett said diversification is kind of protection against ignorance. I kind of took that to mean that people diversify basically because they don't really know what they're doing. But is it a good or a bad thing to diversify, or should you stick in one lane?
Ooh, so it depends on what we're talking about. Are we talking about diversifying? I have a multifamily property here, multifamily property here, and multifamily property here. I'm diversifying in different locations, or are we talking about I'm going to flip, I'm going to do sub 2, I'm going to do multifamily, or what are we talking about in terms of diversifying?
That could be any way. I've seen people say they're diversified within multifamily because they have different asset classes. They could have a 4 or 5 family. They could have a 100 unit. They could have one in the Midwest, one in the East Coast, one in the Southeast, right? Like, so you have diversification of like location for whether you have a cash flow or appreciation market. You could have a diversification of tenant type, whether you do vouchers or market rate or midterm rentals or short-term rentals. So you could consider that diversification all within that same multifamily or real estate umbrella. And some people think of a diversification as like you got stocks and you got real estate and you got equities and whatever else. So this depends on what do you consider to be diversification?
I would say diversification, and this is just kind of my personal opinion on it. A lot of people are, they're dabblers and not necessarily a master of a trade. So I always advise focus on one thing until you're an expert. You spent that 10,000 hours working on this, and then after that, then you can move into other niches to become an expert in that. But if you're doing 1,000 things at one time, you're never going to be good at anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. Candice, you had anything to add to that one?
I would also agree. And I would also say that, to Corey's point, you want to become an expert at whatever your passion is. So whatever you're passionate about, become that expert, and then you can use that across different opportunities. If you're an expert at building teams, building people, okay, great, you're the expert, and you can do that across different arenas, different industries. If you're an expert at asset management, acquiring assets with investors, great. Go after real estate with investors. Go after other small businesses with investors. Just make sure you can expand, as we should be expanding, but just don't lose sight of what you're an expert in, and that will help kind of direct your path when other opportunities come up.
Got it. Okay. In the game of Monopoly, have you both played Monopoly before?
Yes.
I know some people are like, oh, years ago, I haven't played it in a long time. But anyway, Boardwalk, which is the most expensive property, or Baltic, which is the cheapest property, which one are you buying first in your strategy to win the game, and why?
Well, I haven't played in a while, so I can't even remember. I can't remember what the cash flow was for them. I can't remember.
And one was small.
I can't remember. I think
yeah.
I think the idea is just to buy as much as you can, so that whenever someone lands on it, they pay.
Yes.
I think I can't, but I can't remember.
Yep, that's a good strategy. I think that is basically a strategy. I know Baltic, like some people think about like Baltic is cheaper to get all your hotel or get the 4 houses so you can get the hotel. And Boardwalk is, it just costs more money to get that. But when you get Boardwalk, if you could do that, you definitely can bankrupt people with Boardwalk, right? But some people do have that mentality that's just like it's just get in the game and get started. So you got to buy
That's our
something wherever you
mentality.
land. Yeah.
That's how we've lived our life.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
get in the
Get
game and
started.
get started. Yeah, and
Yep.
you can build from there.
And actually, you guys had 3 single family houses, and then you traded up to the hotel level. Well, small
Yeah.
multifamily. I guess I'll say in my head it's the same size as a hotel. Nice. Okay. What does wealth mean to you?
Nice long pause. Freedom.
Candice?
Wealth to me means abundance that can be shared.
Okay. Love that. We ask each guest to create a question for the next guest. So it can be anything. It can be business, personal, funny, serious. It doesn't have to be in any one particular bucket. As you guys are contemplating what your question could be for the next guest, I'm going to ask you what the last guest left for you, which is, how do you believe your business will change the next generation?
I'll jump in first and I'll let Candice answer that second. I would like to think that our business, our goal, our mission is to, improve the lives of, our team, our residents, and, us, we're relatively quiet about what we do, but here in the future, our goal would be to teach and, help other people do what we've done so that we're sharing the wealth, you know what I mean? So I would say that would be what I would hope the goal of our business would be.
And for me, it means that it's possible, that I don't see many people like me and Corey in multifamily at the level that we're at in multifamily that look like us. So I would hope that our legacy, our lasting impact for the next generation would be building upon what we're doing and taking it to a whole nother level, just like we did for the generations behind us.
I love that. And that's one of the main reasons also that I wanted you guys on the show, because we don't see, and I don't see being on the inside, like a lot of people who look like me and like you, who are operating at the level that you guys are operating at. So it is definitely very inspirational. And to know that like you used a couple of single families to get to an 18 unit and then to 102 unit, like that kind of progression just seemed, I don't want to say not unfathomable, but just kind of reaching for the stars, and don't know if that's really possible, but to see people like myself doing it at that level and still continuing to build and grow and have consistency and longevity with their careers and their portfolio, very, very inspirational. So I do want to say thank you for coming on and sharing your journey and giving inspiration to anyone who watches this episode.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So then the last part of that is, do you guys have a question for the next guest?
Let's see. One question I always like to ask people is, what's your superpower and how are you using it? And you can add to that because you're asking at the end, what is your superpower and how are you using it to benefit others?
Got it. I love that. Candice, do you co-sign that question or you have something else?
I'll
You can
co-sign that
co-sign.
question.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right,
co-sign
cool.
that question.
I like that question. Nice. Okay. How can people get in touch with you if they can or should, how they should, can they follow you or connect with you? What's your most active platform or preferred method?
So there's many ways that you can contact us. You can go to our website, mgroupcapital.com. That's a direct way to reach out to us. I'll share our emails with you, Nicole, our personal emails. And there's LinkedIn, there's Instagram. Follow us at mgroup capital on Instagram and Facebook. Like I said, our LinkedIn pages, many ways.
Perfect. And I'll collect all those social media links and your emails, and I'll have those in the show notes, guys. So if you're listening, go to the show notes and you'll find all that information there. Again, thank you guys so much. This is like a superpower couple coming on, showing like giving inspiration and showing what's possible to the rest of us who want to grow empires like you guys. This is fantastic. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
It's been a pleasure.
Hi, same here. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.